The morning had started like any other in the Langsford Holmes household. Ruth stood in the kitchen, pouring tea while sunlight streamed through the window. Eamonn was quieter than usual, sitting at the table, his hands wrapped around a mug that had long since stopped steaming. For weeks he had been dealing with persistent pain and fatigue, insisting it was just age catching up. But Ruth knew better. She had insisted on a scan. She had insisted on answers. And today, the answers were waiting. At 11 a.m., the phone rang. Ruth watched as Eamonn reached for it, his hand shaking just slightly. She braced herself, heart thudding heavily in her chest. The voice on the other end was calm and measured, the kind of voice doctors used when they had news no family wanted to hear. Ruth didn't hear all the words. Only fragments drifted across the room. Biopsy confirmed. We need to begin treatment immediately. Cancer. The mug slipped from Eamonn's hand and hit the floor with a dull thud. He closed his eyes, drawing in a breath that sounded like it weighed the world. When he finally hung up, Ruth was already on her knees beside him, her hands cupping his face. "What did they say?" she whispered, though she already felt the truth settling into her bones. Eamonn swallowed hard. "It's cancer." Ruth's heart shattered in a single beat. Her lips trembled, and before she could stop herself, she broke, tears streaming down her face as the world spun off balance. "No, no, no," she repeated, as though sheer refusal might bend reality backwards. She pulled him into her chest, holding him tightly, afraid that if she loosened her grip, the moment would swallow them whole. Eamonn, always the calm presence, wrapped his arms around her, but even he couldn't keep the tremor from his voice. "I'm still here," he murmured softly. "We're not done. We fight this, together." Ruth pressed her forehead against his. I can't lose you." That confession hung in the air like a cracked window, raw, vulnerable, undeniable. For several long minutes, they sat on the kitchen floor, the kettle still whistling in the background, as the weight of the diagnosis settled between them. The life they had built, decades of memories, laughter, on-screen banter, quiet evenings, shared frustrations and victories, flickered through Ruth's mind like a montage. She wiped her face and forced herself to breathe. "What do we do now?" she asked, voice hoarse. Eamonn reached into his pocket and pulled out the doctor's notes. "We go step by step. Appointments, scans, a treatment plan, and hope." Hope, it felt like a small word for such a large battle, but it was all they had and all they needed. Later that afternoon, they drove to the specialist together. Ruth held Eamonn's hand the entire time, even in the waiting room where other families sat in the same quiet dread. The doctor spoke kindly but directly. Chemotherapy, monitoring, possibilities, risks. Ruth listened, taking mental notes as tears came and went like tides. Eamonn squeezed her hand every time she wavered. When they finally stepped outside, the sky was heavy with gray clouds, but somehow the world felt calmer. They had a plan, they had each other. As they walked toward the car, Ruth looked up at Eamonn, pale, shaken, but resolute. "You're not facing this alone," she said, her voice firm now. "Not for 1 second." Eamonn smiled, weary but grateful. "I know," he whispered. And in that moment, despite the fear, despite the diagnosis, love was louder than the terror. Whatever came next, they would walk through it side by side.